Thanks, Sammy. Can everyone hear me? Thank you. Okay. This morning I was, when John was preaching his message, a song came to my mind that I used to listen to a lot. And it says, "I'm sorry, Lord, for the things that I've made it, because it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus." And before I actually start sharing, I just want to say a few things, because I don't want to get up here and sound like a hypocrite, or feel like a hypocrite, because for the last 3 or 4 months or so, a number of events have happened in my life and my family's life, and I guess I have allowed those events to affect my relationship with God. And just like John was saying this morning, that when we take our eyes off Jesus, or we let go of Him, not that He's let go of us, we have to find something to satisfy, or something. We have to use something. And so I just want to humbly admit this morning, as I stand here, that I have not been holding on to the Lord necessarily. And when Sam asked me to speak, my first reaction was like, no, I can't do that, that would be wrong. But then the Lord said to me, "Mark, do you have something to say about me? Have I done something for you?" And I couldn't say no. So anyway, because I've only got 10, 15 minutes or so, it will be cutting it a bit short, which is going to be difficult for me. The last time somebody gave me 10 minutes, I think I went for 25, so I'll be doing my best, Sam, sorry. As a lot of you have already heard my testimony, because I was brought up in this church, so forgive me for those who have already heard it, but for those who haven't, just briefly, I was brought up in a home where my mother was an Adventist, my father was brought up a Catholic, but not necessarily real practicing Catholic, and by the age of 8 years old, my dad was converted. And for me, that was probably the first thing that, like, Mum always took us to church, but it was just church, I didn't really understand, oh wow, this is all actually real. And when Dad was converted, I was about 8 years old, but I remember still just realising, wow, like, God is real. Because, my dad used to drink and smoke it's just amazing to me to see that change. But that didn't mean that he was necessarily real to me. I wasn't converted, and so, I had to live my life. And I was an insecure kid. I let my friends push me around at school. I was like a little puppet, and I was never good at my schoolwork and that, so I was quite, down and things, and so I had to always try and find different ways of finding value and security and a sense of identity, and so I'd do that by my sporting achievements, and I'd do anything for my friends. One of my friends one time asked me to go and punch someone in the face, and I did it. I didn't want to do it, but I did it because I just thought they'd accept me and love me, or, just be my friends. And so, yeah, and as I got a bit older, and I was introduced to drugs and, smoking pot and things like that. And I guess because of my insecurities and things, like, once I started using some of those drugs, I began to realise that it really helped me with my feelings of insecurity and feeling down and sad all the time about my life and the fact I was heading nowhere. And so I found comfort in those drugs, smoking and things, but eventually I started using heavier drugs, using LSD and a lot of LSD, hallucinogenics and things like that, and that caused a lot of problems for me. It put me in hospital a few times and messed with my mind. I ended up on antipsychotic drugs, and I was on those for 5 years, and just when I wasn't using drugs, I'd be drinking like crazy, just living it up. Whenever I'd be in hospital and I was scared like I was going to die, I'd be crying out to the Lord to save me. And unfortunately I never recognised the fact that I actually got out of hospital and I'm still alive today. Back then I didn't see it, you know, but the Lord heard my prayers, all of them. And eventually I ended up on heroin for 3 years, you know. Something that as a young person, I said I'd never do was, you know, use needles and all the rest of it. Even when I first started smoking pot, I'd be like bagging out all the junkies in the world. Next thing you know, here I was passing out in the gutters. But eventually this is just cutting it very short, I'll just take you straight to, I mean, it's pretty obvious where my life was at and what was going on. But I just want to share with you the last 3 months before I was converted. I was with a girl, some of you may know her, Kathleen Bell. We started seeing each other when I was still in the world. And I remember her introducing me to John, actually. She was trying to help me. So was John. I think I gave John a bit that day, but anyway. But yeah, I just come to the point where I just wanted to give up. I just had tried so hard to do what God wanted me to do, and I thought I had, you know, like I was doing the whole old covenant thing, like, you know, I'd try really hard, I'd try and get off drugs for a while, but just could never stick at it. I'd go to church and never would work for me. And eventually I just said to Kathleen, I said, look, just leave me, just like, I don't want to be with you, I don't want you to be with me, like, it's not going to do any good for you. And, you know, like, I'm not going to change, so forget it. And so I told her to leave me. And I actually went home that day and I got on my knees, literally, and just asked God to get out of my life and leave me alone. And it's probably the best thing I could have ever done. Just like it says in Revelations that He'd rather us be hot or cold, and I opted for the cold, and within 3 months my life changed. But over those 3 months I decided to just go completely crazy. I just went nuts, you know. I just took every drug I possibly could. I started seeing another girl, and I just woke up one Sunday morning after about three months later, after I got on my knees and said to it, I'm trying to rush it, sorry. I'm just sort of pushing this. Sorry. Okay. I woke up this Sunday morning and, you know, the sun was shining outside. It was a beautiful day. I'd been out the night before, off my face, and I'd come home and it was probably about 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the day. And I just came to the realization that I couldn't live that life either. You know, like I tried to do what God wanted me to do, and now I was doing what you know, Satan wanted me to do as well, and it was like I just couldn't be satisfied with either, and I just felt so scared and so like I didn't have any options, anywhere to go, and so I just come to that was it for me that day. I'd had enough. You know, there was plenty of times in the past before that I'd said, you know, I'm going to kill myself or whatever, but this was it for me. This was that day I was going to do it. And I was lying in bed just considering the best way, the easiest way to go about it. And as I was there, I got a phone call from my friend Daniel Webb, some of you may know. He was impressed. He had been converted about 3 months before this time, and him and I used to do drugs together, and I hadn't seen him for a long time. And he was impressed to ring me because he had a minister at his house and he wanted me to come up and talk to him, and he was impressed to ring me that morning, and he rang me. And I went up, I told him, I said, look, I'm not, like, he told me about his life, you know, what had happened, God had changed his life and all this, and I got annoyed with him. I just said, look, you know, I'm not really interested in, I was quite offended at him actually. I was just like, you know, what are you doing ringing me up telling me all these wonderful things about yourself, you know, when my life's absolutely crap. And he's going, look, Mark, I want you to come and talk to this minister. And I was just refusing, nah, forget it. But then he actually said to me, he said, look, Mark, what about all